Yeah, I mean, we're kind of in this weird situation now, aren't we? Where like, an injury crisis has struck at Aston Villa, and it's not good. Obviously, the last podcast we spoke about Buba's injury, that's obviously way more serious than we anticipated at the time. Esri, he seems to have a sprain on the knee, and it doesn't sound like it's as bad as we maybe had once feared. And as you mentioned again in the last podcast, mate, like the Villa admin likes to sort of sandwich the news, don't they? So we kind of had the Buba announcement, which was obviously bad, and then we had the Bailey contract extension announcement, which is good. So maybe, maybe it is bad news for Ezra. Actually, now I'm sort of saying this out loud. This isn't the kind of sandwich I was envisaging. But I think from all the sort of rumours and stuff that we're sort of hearing online, it doesn't seem as bad as we'd once thought with Ezri, does it, mate? But, we're still in a situation. John Duran's out. Emi Buendia's out. Tyrone Mings. This photo has taken Twitter by storm, and maybe as somebody who is sort of working in sports media, football media specifically, I'm like massively desensitized to this kind of stuff. This didn't fill me with excitement. This didn't, make me have a better day as a result of seeing Tyrone on a bike, because in the grand scheme of things, it means nothing. And I'm so sorry to burst everybody's bubble, but like Tyrone, I will stick my neck out and categorically say I would be very surprised if Tyrone Mings stepped foot on a football pitch for Aston Villa before the season ends. And if it does, then my God, sports science, wow, I will never understand you. I don't think we could even call it science at that point, mate. It's sports magic if Tyrone Mings plays for Aston Villa again this season.
Yeah. So obviously this has come around as a result of a tweet from Fabrizio. Says that the club announces that he's returned to training. So it'll be interesting to see whether that's full training, just back on the grass and everything like that. No doubt we'll get some more news out of Unai's presser, and that he's hoping to be ready and 100% fit as soon as possible. Sorry. So it's surprising that we have had this at all, mate. As you say, I think we all felt pretty categorically that, Tyrone would be out until the end of the season. I think he'd have to get to a really, really strong place, as you say, to get involved with a matchday squad, because I think when you consider the risk and reward of that situation, unless it really push really, really comes to shove and we are really running low, then he has to step in. But I still think that until we are 101% certain that he's absolutely okay, I still think guys like Clement Longley will and should get the nod before him, because the last thing that we want to do is not treat this kind of process quickly. But it has taken me by surprise. I think, as you rightly say, it's clear that I think this has come a little bit sooner than perhaps all of us had imagined. There's still a lot of football left to play, obviously. And so, let's see how we go. It'd be interesting to see whether we get more news from the club, whether, I'm sure we'll get kind of quizzed on how close he is to matchday squads and stuff like that. But as you rightly say, if he does get back on a football pitch before the season and in any capacity, that's pretty incredible to go from the season opener and then be kind of here mid-February is pretty remarkable going.
That would be insane, wouldn't it? But I'm trying to piece together the timeline, right? Because I'd sort of seen, amongst all of the excitement, and don't get me wrong, it's great. We need something to cling on to. That's exactly why that picture went out there, right? But I believe the photo went out before the Fabrizio tweet. So I kind of feel like Fabrizio's sort of made something out of nothing there, right? Mm-hmm. And he's kind of tweeted that. But then also, there's somebody on Twitter, a girl called Jodie. I can't remember her @ or whatever, but I think she works for Tyrone's Academy. And she had quote tweeted the Fabrizio tweet, basically saying one, the club haven't said this, which is obviously, we haven't seen the statement either. But two, She said that it isn't the first time that Ty has been back at the training ground either, which again, like anybody who sort of maybe has a relationship with a footballer, whatever, will kind of know how that sort of rehab process and everything goes. I know it was only like a week ago we were talking about those photos of Tyrone in Philly. Again, them photos could have been taken months ago. It's not a case of them photos were taken last week and that's when it was. I would imagine that Tyrone has been at Bodymore almost every day when while he's been in the country, at least. Like you have to check in with physios, all that kind of thing. It's not a case of Tyrone, has been sort of languishing at home and sort of wallowing in self-pity, although I imagine there probably has been a large portion of that as well that kind of comes with the territory of being injured. But he would have been heavily involved at Bodymore, not on the grass, but he'd have been doing things. And again, same goes with whatever he was doing out in Philly. I don't know how long he was out there for, but again, as I mentioned in the last podcast, I know that that's where Tyrone does all of his rehab generally. He always ends up in Philly. Shout out to Raheem for the plug on that one. But yeah, it's just one of them. I think, like, don't read too much into it. And again, it kind of comes back to your point about good PR and bad PR, mate. It's not really that much of a coincidence that on the day this sort of letter gets leaked on Villa Twitter, that we're sort of treated to a photo of Tyrone back to work, air quotes for the Spotify listeners. Do you know what I mean? Maybe this is me, again, being cynical, and you'd know yourself as well, mate. We've both worked in sports media for years. This to me just, it stinks of a sort of PR. Let's keep the fans happy. Let's get some likes on Twitter. Like, let's go with what we know. For us, that would have been a cheeky little all smiles. That's a little inside joke from us at golf. It's a dry content day. It's an all smiles from X tweet that's going up. Get the numbers in. It's just how it is. Do you know what I mean? It's just how this thing works.
Yeah, it's. I think one thing that you kind of, both of us have worked in social and for some pretty big brands, I think it's fair to say, respectively, some big clubs. I spent a little bit of time at Villa myself. Admittedly, I was about 17. But you kind of realise that there's no such thing as a post for post's sake. I think when you look at social and how clubs use social, everything is more calculated than perhaps you'd imagine. And I think that goes down to the wording of tweets, particularly when you're looking at club statements and clubs, like those kind of posts on social. Everything. I don't think it's necessarily known by people that work outside of the industry, like just how calculated everything that goes on social is. And particularly when you're making those big club posts, just how many eyes have to go through that and approve that. And so, yeah, honestly, like, I can't really stress there's no such thing as content for content's sake in this game. There really isn't, particularly when you're like working for a club like Villa. And so, yeah, I mean, this isn't me sitting here with my tinfoil hat on or anything like that. I'm just stating what I know about social. It's that, yeah, everything is so well reasoned. It has to be these days, because if you get caught lacking, if something isn't as thought through as perhaps it should have been, then you can very quickly end up with egg on your face, and rightly so.